Hey guys, long time no see. It's your host Trimoria Gear here, and welcome to today's guide over Lahn, the new class in Black Desert Online. I'm just gonna go over the skills of what I have right now. I'm level 56 with 719 skill points, and just kind of go over what I've experienced and what I use to grind. And hopefully maybe this will give you some choice insight, but I don't really know which way you should go because a lot of her skills flow together. And most of the time you can kind of rotate almost all of them in succession by the time each of them cool down, because they're very short cooldowns, anywhere from like 7 to 6 seconds or whatever. So we'll just go from top to bottom here. Blade of Blood I don't really use. It's actually kind of weird to put it off, even though I have a quick slotted. It's actually like the only skill I have quick slotted. Some people have leveled Moon Slash and then they just literally pick up Eye of the Phoenix and fight like a potato. I'm not a fan of that because it feels really slow and it doesn't feel like it does as much damage as doing other combos, and it also induces bad habits, is why I don't do it. Because later on when Awakening and Absolute skills come, you don't want to fight like a potato, especially on harder mobs that you don't one-shot or like can't kill really quick. That will become very problematic if you just force those bad habits, and overall the damage ratios aren't actually as much as what it looks like. It says like 428 times 6, 420 times 4, and 428 times 5. That sounds like a lot of damage, but then you got like Spin to Win here that's just 564 and it's like 12 hits in like 1 second or whatever, which is way more than this altogether. So also Pendulum Cleaver, I have this. I do want this up higher, but then her Z buff does give her attack speed boost. This is more like when you don't have 100% rage. It's actually quite nice to use and it's very easy to pull off, though the skill point expenditure is quite expensive. Probably want it at least like to this rank, Pendulum Cleaver number 4, just for that. Because at the 3 and below it's only 10%, but at 4 it's 15%. Some people have said like the class feels kind of slow. Well, that was like previously from videos I saw. I've actually played the class quite a bit now, and I don't think the class is pretty slow. It's actually quite fast-paced, in my opinion. I don't really know. She has a lot of attack speed boosts from just passive, and also like skill awakening isn't even that high. Skill add-ons isn't even that high. And then paired with this, it's actually quite fast once you have it all buffed up, especially with the rage buff 25%. It's pretty much the same buff as like the Musa Mewa, on top of having a bit of an AP boost, because her damage ratio is actually quite low compared to other classes in their pre-awakening, and from what I've experienced anyways. Dismemberment is actually really good. This thing is really quick. It's a single chop that gives bonus AP. This is also good for repositioning around like an enemy. I would definitely pick this up just because it gives up to 6 AP. And then Catasetum, this one I don't think most people will remember to use it because it's shift R and B, and you use it after some skills as well. It's not really listed in the skill tooltip there, which I'll be going over. This backward jump, I actually want it like maxed out, even though it costs more stamina. This can be triggered like every 5 seconds and pretty much gets you out of dangerous situations, which is really nice. Taking the ultimate lets you kind of just partially cancel mid-attack in some things. Furious Chase, definitely get it up. One of Lahn's things is that she doesn't really have consistent movement. She has burst movement, so her movement distances are really bursty. Like you just, from one spot to another, you go really far, but then after that you're kind of like walking around for a little while. Furious Chase is like a forward chop and really pushes her forward. This Stately Dignity pretty much lets you sprint without using stamina when you use it. It's also a taunt for mobs, good for aggroing. I haven't really found a use to take this at all, and also I don't really have any WP problems with her. Pendulum Kick, for sure take this. I use this a lot, especially with the flow, and also Cymbidium. Cymbidium and Pendulum Click all flow together, and same with Coax. I think this is auto-learned. Deadly Restraint, I don't use it too much unless you can CC the mobs, but I've been fighting mobs that can't be CC'd because it causes down smash and air smash, which is really powerful and does down attack and air attack. But then 3-point Stipple and 4-point Splatter chain a lot well with a lot of other skills as well. Like these two skills flow with a lot of her other skills, so that's why I took these instead. Whereas like if I'm fighting mobs that could actually be CC'd more often, can knock down or whatever, then Deadly Restraint would actually do more damage, especially if you got high crit rate. But then 3-point Stipple has a base 50% hit rate, but it hits more only when mobs are on the floor. If they're not on the floor, it won't really do much, but Deadly Restraint would definitely do more if it crits than this, especially with a down smash and the air attack that it has. Spring Breeze, something you want to max right away. This is pretty much an engage move, and it's also really strong. It mixes in with Morning Dew and Wind Orchid, so there's a strange pairing of skills. If you're gonna pick up Morning Dew, you should pick up Wind Orchid, but if you pick up Fragrant Stigma, then you should pick up Crescent Barrage. So obviously skill points is going to be a problem with you, and if you don't want either of those, then you should take Spring Breeze along with Soul Ascent. But Spring Breeze can pretty much chain into any of those 3-4 attacks that I just mentioned. And after Wind Orchid, you can also do Sacred Dance. But Sacred Dance, you can kind of proc this anywhere. You should definitely take this one. This thing hits it really hard. I use this quite a lot because it's also forward guard on a charge and super armor on the attack, and it's 100% crit and pretty much hits really strong. You can kind of cancel almost into it from most things. And then Braided Ghost, I haven't really used this too much. It feels like it could do a lot, but it just seems a little too slow for my liking. This is obviously something I haven't really used too much. It comes out from time to time just on accident. Soul Ascent, Spring Breeze straight into the kick can go straight into a Soul Ascent. This thing hits really fast, and she kind of just like, you know, yo-yo swings her Crescent Pendulum in like a wheel cart motion, and it just hits really quickly. It's pretty strong. If you just pick this up as well and just use it on its own, you can also pull mobs to you if they can be pulled, and then you just slash them right into whatever. Blooming Nether Flower, I use this a lot because this is practically a spin to win. Spin to win, 564 and 12 hits. It hits like a machine gun, and then I follow through into a Sacred Dance most of the time, and it just does a lot of damage. Wind Orchid, I want to pick this up to the 4th because it has a 75% crit rate, and I'm pretty sure it'll hit a lot more then. It's a bit slow to do Wind Orchid by itself. Most of the time you want to cancel it with other attacks straight into it. So a lot of these attacks flow into one another. It's actually quite difficult to keep track of it all, but that's what this is here for. So the first thing is that Eye of the Phoenix, I use this kind of just mostly in case I make a combo mistake. So if I just screw up my combo or whatever for whatever reason, I just press spacebar and then kind of resets a little bit, and then you can just move flowing on backwards. You can cancel and stop most things with it, but I wouldn't spam it because it eats your stamina like crazy, and it does like almost no damage when it's on cooldown. So in terms of engages, Ethereal Dance is the only one I use when I actually do Nimbus Stride. So if you want both the buffs, I generally do Pendulum Cleaver first before Dismemberment, and you get both your attack speed and your AP buff. Just one into the other. I don't really go the other way around because the double swing like that from Pendulum Cleaver is a bit slower. So I go left mouse and right mouse button, so have this on as well. Okay, and then Salpuri Purge, I forgot to mention this. This one you should obviously take. It hits the hardest for like any attack, and it's the super long cooldown and causes DP minus on whatever you hit. But Crescent Barrage we'll go over each skill separately before into combos. So Catasetum is Shift R&B. It's like 3 quick chops with a high crit rate. Generally I find this to be pretty powerful just because it hits 3 times. And each time it says like 1-2 hit damage is 374 times 3, so it's pretty much 374 times 6, I guess. But I do notice it does quite a lot of damage. Blade Dance I don't really use, although it's very confusing between Blade Dance and Catasetum because they look almost identical in terms of motion. So try not to get confused with that. I might even lock this, but I'm not sure at the moment still. Okay, and then Spring Breeze engagements. You can either go Furious Chase straight into a Wind Orchid, and then you can follow through with either Crescent Barrage or Sacred Dance. So we've got Furious Chase, and then either Eye of Phoenix out of habit. Alright guys, so with the combos, what I've found the most is that I generally do both the Pendulum Cleaver for a quick buff. I really don't use Blade of the Blood that often. Primrose Sprint if I need to really like kind of get behind a target, but that's really not the case. Spring Breeze, you kind of have to like go through the air and turn your camera around really quick if you want to go behind somebody. But Spring Breeze, it's generally your biggest initiator next to Furious Chase and then Wind Orchid. And then if you want to do Sacred Dance. Sacred Dance, don't charge it up. Apparently it does less hits. I don't know why, but it's probably because it's like a forward guard, I guess, and then it's like a counter attack because it's super armor on using it. It literally says their number of hits decreases if used while charging. So I literally just press the key and just let go right away, which is back left mouse, right mouse button, and then just go. I mean, that's what it says, unless that's wrong on the tooltip. I don't really know. It does say the hits decreases while charging, so just don't charge it, in my opinion. So then we go into Spring Breeze, Kick, and then Crescent Barrage, 3-point Stipple, and then we can go into Spin to Win, and then a Sacred Dance, and follow through with a Catasetum, and then you can go back straight into another kicking spree, and then probably finish off something with Salpuri Purge, because that's your hardest hitting skill, and it hits really hard, and it's 100% crit and almost 700% times 5. Super long cooldown, extremely useful to use. If you want quick damage, I also do like a Spring Breeze straight into a Soul Ascent into an Eye of the Phoenix, which is extremely quick. And then you just go straight into buffing yourself again with either a Pendulum Cleaver, probably get behind your target really quick. Or either that, you can also do a Spring Breeze straight into a Morning Dew. It latches you onto the target, and then you'll do a Wind Orchid right after the Morning Dew. And then you can probably go into a Spin to Win if you want. And most likely your target will be bound if they can be bound. Well, that's why I'm testing it on these soldiers here anyways, because they can be knocked down. And then if you really need to jump around and circle around, do an Ethereal Dance. Ethereal Dance pretty much hits the hardest on landing. I haven't really noticed any other skill hitting harder. Fragrant Stigma, you can use Fragrant Stigma upon landing, but then I use that with Crescent Barrage anyway, so there's no point using that during Nimbus Stride. Ethereal Dance is 100% crit as well. And then Morning Dew is more like a aerial latch on. It's not really that far of a latch on, it's a little bit, but it does drag you to the target a little bit. And then go straight into Wind Orchid. That's why if you have Wind Orchid maxed out, it would hurt quite a bit. That's why I would say pair those skills up. If you spec one but don't have enough for the other, just take those two because they chain together. And the most important ones are really the Pendulum Kick. You might end up spamming that quite a lot in your early days of playing a Lahn. But Crescent Barrage I use quite a bit because it's got HP recovery and it's got a lift to it. And it goes into Fragrant Stigma quite well, and that hits decently well. It doesn't hit too hard, but at least it chains into something. And then 3-point Stipple just kind of like flows with most of everything. And then you just go in full rotation until you get used to all of these skills. There's not too much other than just flowing all the skills together. It does get confusing after a while because you might just end up using the same skills over and over, but tend to practice more other skills rather than just using the same ones over and over, or the same 3. Trying to get 8 to 9 skills in rotation is quite difficult with this class, but that's okay. Most of the skills I would say hit pretty much the same except for the super long cooldown like the Salpuri Purge and the Spin to Win. But the Spin to Win has like no protection at all, which is why I'm not too big of a fan using it, because I was like trying elites and then they just keep stunning me. So you end up learning different tactics instead and moving around all over the place, which is the whole point of Pendulum Cleaver and the Dismemberment for the speed buff and the attack speed. So most of the time, I think this class is actually quite interesting. You use semi-range, not really fully ranged. You're like melee ranged. Not exactly as far ranged as like some other classes like Dark Knight or Ranger, but she's got nice burst movement speed and pretty fast like burst move speed, but doesn't have really like a constant sprinting speed. I think she gets more burst movement speed when she gets her awakening, as I've seen from some other players in Korean, but we'll have to wait until that comes. So hopefully this kind of helped you out a bit and gives you some insight in terms of skill choices. I don't really know what's best. Just choose whatever works for you, and also don't induce bad habits, otherwise you're going to have a lot of trouble later when you fight harder mobs, unless you grind the same thing all the way to whatever level you're grinding to. Because eventually the game will have newer areas such as Dregan coming out, and those mobs aren't going to be any easier unless it's like the lower areas, especially if you want like the high-end stuff. So yeah, until then, I'll see you guys next time. So here's just some gameplay of some grinding.